have you ever asked yourself, do women really need men? In today's world, women are independent. Financially, emotionally, intellectually. They can succeed in their careers, raise children, travel the world, and pursue happiness without waiting on a man's approval. So, where does that leave us? Men, what role do we still play in this relationship that used to define human survival? Why is it that sometimes you feel like just an accessory in her life? Something ornamental, not essential. Something she can live with or live without. Today, I want to talk to you. Just you. Not men in general, not some abstract social group. You, the person watching this video, sitting alone, wondering about love, relationships, and maybe even your own worth. This isn't a lecture, it's a reflection. It's a slow journey into a question that's both simple and hauntingly deep. Do women still need men? Let's start at the beginning. Evolution. Talented. Thousands of years ago, the answer was obvious. Women needed men to survive, to hunt, to protect, to provide food and shelter. The image of the strong male protector was not romantic, was biological necessity. But today, she doesn't need a hunter. She doesn't need a warrior. She might not even need a provider. So, if survival is no longer the currency of connection, what is? This is where things get subtle and personal. Maybe it's not about protection anymore. Maybe it's about emotional safety, about intimacy, about being understood or misunderstood in a way that still matters. And that's where psychology steps in. Freud believed that love was a form of repetition, a return to early patterns of attachment, loss, and desire. So maybe women, just like men, need each other for survival anymore, but for something deeper, something rooted in emotion, identity, and longing. Even psychology isn't enough, 'cause this question, do women still need men? Isn't just biological or emotional, it's existential. It's about meaning, about choice, and about being seen. Sartre once said, hell is other people. He believed that our identity is always filtered through the gaze of others. But Simone de Beauvoir, his partner, both in life and in thought, took it further. She argued that no one is born a woman, she becomes one. And perhaps the same can be said of men. Maybe today, being a man isn't about muscle or money. Maybe it's about presence, awareness, the courage to be honest with her and with yourself. So, where does that leave you? Right now, watching this. Maybe you're in a relationship. Maybe you're lonely. Maybe you've been ghosted, ignored, hurt. Maybe you've tried too hard, or not hard enough. Maybe you're re-wondering what it even means to be a man in a world that seems to question the need for men at all. And maybe you feel something you can't quite name, an emptiness, a confusion, a quiet grief. Not because you've lost someone, but because you've lost a sense of place. What I want to do in this video, in this slow, honest journey, is walk with you through stories, philosophy, psychology, ecology, through uncomfortable truths and moments of clarity. Long before dating apps, before dinner dates and relationship goals, we were animals with instincts. Women selected mates based on what would increase the survival chances of their offspring. Strength, resources, status, when she can give herself everything except one thing, meaningful connection. Here, ask the truth. It asks not that women need men anymore. Like no matter what you did, it was never enough. Like you were walking on eggshells, trying to be what she wants, without really knowing what that is. If you felt that tightness in your chest, that confusion, you're not broken. You're just being forced to evolve emotionally faster than your instincts were designed to. It's that the type of man they need has changed. The world shifted and they rose. Socially, economically, emotionally. Men, though, we've been slower. Not because we're weak, but because we're carrying an identity that was once celebrated and now questioned. And that creates something deeply unsettling. The fear that if we're not needed, we're not valuable. It's not the provider. It's not the alpha. It's the one who understands her mind, not just her body. Not by being the strongest, or the wealthiest, or even the smartest. Your value lies in something deeper, in how present you are, in how willing you are to feel, to listen, to grow without shame. That doesn't mean abandoning masculinity. It means redefining it. It means understanding that what women need now isn't less of you. It's more of who you really are. Not the version shaped by survival, but the one shaped by meaning. The one who's curious about her world and not threatened by it. Men, on the other hand, were driven to protect, to hunt, to compete, because survival depended on it. That balance of need and exchange created something primal, attraction. I want you to see that this question, do women need men? When women no longer need protection, no longer rely on resources from men, when society levels the playing field, or even tips it, you, as a man, begin to feel an ancient purpose fading. You may not be conscious of it, but something inside you recognizes the shift. You're no longer needed to protect her from lions, but now you're trying to protect her from emotional exhaustion, financial stress, existential dread, and she might not even want that. Or worse, she might see your attempt to help as weakness or control. Might be the wrong one, and the right question might be this: do you know who you are when you read "not trying to be needed"? So let's look back again, but this time through the lens of evolutionary psychology. But what happens when those needs shift? So what now? Attraction was once built on exchange. You give safety, she gives nurture. What happens when that transaction dissolves? But here's the tension. As men, we were never taught this version of masculinity. We were raised on strength, not sensitivity, on logic, not intuition. We were taught to be desirable, but not to be deeply present. So now, you're left asking yourself, if I'm not the protector, the provider, the man of the house, then who am I? And that question haunts you every time she says, I don't need you to fix this, or worse, when she doesn't say anything at all. Let me ask you something, and answer it honestly to yourself. Have you ever felt disposable in a relationship? 'Cause here's a hard truth. Evolution doesn't care about your feelings, just adapts. Women have adapted fast, but you are valuable. It's just not in the ways you were taught. Let's talk about rejection. Not the obvious kind, the dramatic breakups, the unanswered texts, but the quieter kind, slow fade, the emotional disconnection. It's the moment you realize she's not really listening anymore. It's your sense of self. Who am I if I'm not wanted? That question eats at you in the silence, in the scrolling, in the moments where you try to distract yourself, but keep coming back to her. Not because she was perfect, but because her attention made you feel real, or worse, she is, but nothing you say changes anything. That's a form of rejection too, and it cuts deep. You have to be vulnerable. And here's the paradox. Most men fear vulnerability because it feels like weakness. But to a woman who truly sees you, vulnerability is not weakness. It's presence. It's power. Not the power to control her. And that's okay. It's not a failure. It's a chance. It's a chance to rebuild your self-worth without leaning on someone else's approval. A chance to step into your own depth, your own inner world. And from that place, you become not someone she needs, but someone she chooses. The power to stay with yourself, even when it hurts. 'Cause, for a lot of men, love is how we validate our existence. Maybe it's time to let go of that question. Maybe the better question is, am I someone who knows how to love, even when I'm not needed? Can I love without agenda, without transaction? Can I show up as myself, not as a savior, or a servant, or a solution, but just as me? We're not taught to explore ourselves, to build inner worth. We're taught to prove it, to earn it, and often we try to earn it through women. So when she pulls away or stops needing you, it's not just the relationship that's collapsing. This is where philosophy becomes not just useful, but necessary. Sartre argued that our existence precedes our essence. In other words, we're not born with a purpose, we create it. So if you've been living for her, defining yourself through her eyes, and then she disappears, you're left with a terrifying opportunity to define yourself without anyone's gaze to confirm who you are. It's terrifying because it's free, and freedom, real freedom, is overwhelming because it means you choose. You choose who you are. You choose what matters. No one is going to come save you. No one is going to hand you a new identity. And the truth is, part of you doesn't want to choose. You want someone to tell you who to be, a father figure, a mentor, a lover, someone who will say, you're enough. But even if they say it, it never sticks till you believe it yourself. So let's sit with that discomfort. Let's stop running from it. That ache in your chest, it's not weakness, it's a signal. It means something inside you is trying to be born, a version of you that isn't dependent on being needed. Because being needed feels powerful, but it's fragile. Being needed means your worth depends on someone else's lack. But being seen, being understood, even when you're not useful, that's what you actually crave. But to be seen, truly, you have to risk exposure. And that's where we circle back to this idea of being needed. Because here's the truth that men often avoid. Sometimes, women don't need you. And choice, not need, is where real connection begins. Because when you can sit alone and not feel lonely, that's when you know you've arrived. Now that you've rebuilt yourself, or at least started to, you're not walking into a relationship asking, will she complete me? You're asking, can we meet here as whole people, not half souls seeking repair? And that changes everything. Because here's the truth. Most people, men and women, avoid. You can be whole through another person. You can only share your wholeness and the beauty of that kind of relationship. It's not about needing, it's about choosing. And choice is where real love begins. But let's not romanticize this. Mature love isn't easier, it's harder, because it demands that you show up as you are, not as a performance, not as a projection. And that means letting someone see you. Key, even when you don't look strong, even when your answers are messy, even when your ego wants to run. It's where intimacy becomes a test of truth, not a guarantee of pleasure. Think about it. In immature love, we try to merge. We try to erase difference. We want her to think like us, react like us, validate us, okay? But in mature love, difference is respected. You see her, not as a mirror, not as an extension of your fantasy, but as a separate world. And you're curious. You want to learn her language, even if it's unfamiliar. You want to feel the tension between you, masculine and feminine, logic and feeling, order and chaos. And instead of fearing it, you hold it. You hold the polarity. That's what so many men miss. They confuse harmony with sameness. A real harmony is created through contrast, to the dance between two fully expressed individuals who aren't trying to fix each other. She doesn't need to be like you, and you don't need to be like her. You just need to understand what you are and what she is, and meet with curiosity instead of fear. That's why presence matters so much. It's not presence as performance. Look how calm I am. Look how zen. But real presence. It's a kind that listens without solving. It's a kind that stays steady when she spirals. The kind that doesn't flinch when she says something that triggers your pride. Because your ego, it wants to defend, to correct, to dominate. But your presence, it holds, it breathes, it sees. And the deeper truth is this: women don't want perfect men. They want present ones, conscious ones. Men who know their shadows and aren't ashamed of them. Men who don't hide their pain behind anger or their fear behind withdrawal. Men who can sit in silence without reaching for their phone. Who can touch a woman without trying to take from her. Who can love without needing. Because when you can sit alone and not feel lonely, that's when you know you've arrived. Now that you've rebuilt yourself, or at least started to, you're not walking into a relationship asking, will she complete me? You're asking, can we meet here as whole people, not half souls seeking repair? And that changes everything, because here's the truth most people, men and women, avoid. You can be whole through another person. You can only share your wholeness. And the beauty of that kind of relationship, it's not about needing, it's about choosing. And choice is where real love begins. But let's not romanticize this. Mature love isn't easier. It's harder, because it demands that you show up as you are. Not as a performance, not as a projection. And that means letting someone see you. Even when you don't look strong. Even when your answers are messy. Even when your ego wants to run. It's where intimacy becomes a test of truth, not a guarantee of pleasure. Think about it. In immature love, we try to merge, try to erase difference. We want her to think like us, react like us, validate us. But in mature love, difference is respected. You see her, not as a mirror, not as an extension of your fantasy, but as a separate world. And you're curious? You want to learn her language, even if it's unfamiliar. You want to feel the tension between you, masculine and feminine, logic and feeling, order and chaos. And instead of fearing it, you hold it. You hold the polarity. That's what so many men miss. They confuse harmony with sameness. Real harmony is created through contrast, to the dance between two fully expressed individuals who aren't trying to fix each other. She doesn't need to be like you, and you don't need to be like her. You just need to understand what you are and what she is, and meet with curiosity instead of fear. That's why presence matters so much. It's not presence as performance. Look how calm I am. Look how zen. But real presence. It's a kind that listens without solving. It's a kind that stays steady when she spirals. The kind that doesn't flinch when she says something that triggers your pride. Because your ego, it wants to defend, to correct, to dominate. But your presence, it holds, it breathes, it sees. And the deeper truth is this: women don't want perfect men. They want present ones, conscious ones. Men who know their shadows and aren't ashamed of them. Men who don't hide their pain behind anger or their fear behind withdrawal. Men who can sit in silence without reaching for their phone. Who can touch a woman without trying to take from her. Who can love without needing. Because that's the paradox, isn't it? When you stop needing to be needed, you become most desirable. Not because you're aloof, but because you're grounded. Because you're no longer chasing, no longer proving. You're simply being. And in that stillness, she feels safe. Not safe because you'll protect her from the world, but safe because you won't disappear when she reveals her chaos. And that, my friend, is what mature intimacy looks like. Not fireworks, not fantasy, but depth, stillness, a shared space where two people, whole and flawed and human, sit across from each other and say, I see you, I choose you. Not because I need you, but because I want to walk this path with you as I am. And that's where love stops being a performance and starts being a practice. So now, here you are. Not perfect, not finished, but real, awake. No longer clinging to the need to be needed. No longer seeking a woman to validate your manhood or distract you from your pain. You're beginning to stand on your own ground. And maybe, for the first time, you're starting to realize you never really needed her to define your worth. What you needed was yourself, your presence, your stillness, your truth. Let's be honest, the world is noisy. Social media, dating culture, endless advice from people who've never sat alone with themselves. You're constantly being told what a real man is: stoic, strong, rich, unshakable. But those are masks. Masks you put on when you're terrified that who you really are, tender, questioning, imperfect, won't be enough. But what if you are? What if your vulnerability is not the opposite of strength, but the very proof of it. What if being able to sit with your fear, not run from it, not fix it, just be with it, is what makes you powerful in ways the world can't measure? You don't need to become cold to survive heartbreak. You don't need to become alpha to get her attention. You don't need to harden. You need to deepen, to drop the performance, to let go of the game. 'Cause women, real women, conscious women, they're not impressed by your resume. They're moved by your presence, by how fully you show up when things get hard, by whether your silence comes from power or from fear. And most importantly, you're not doing this to attract her. You're doing this because you deserve to know yourself. Because whether or not someone else walks with you, you are still worthy of a life that matters. A life of purpose, not the flashy kind. Not change the world kind, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind that wakes up every morning and says, I'm here, I'm honest, I'm present, and that's enough. Maybe you'll fall in love again. Maybe you won't. But love isn't the goal. Integrity is. Presence is. Depth is. Because when you live from that place, love stops being a desperate search. It starts becoming a beautiful surprise. Something that arrives, not because you chased it, but because you were ready to hold it. With open hands, not closed fists. And when it comes, you'll be different. Not because you changed for her, but because you became more you. And in that becoming, you found what you thought only love could give you. Peace, meaning, aliveness. And now you carry that with you. Not as a weapon, but as a compass. So if no one has told you this before, let me say it now. You don't have to be needed to be worthy. You don't have to be loved to be whole. You are enough, not when someone sees it, but when you do. This is your work now. Not to seek, but to become. Not to chase love, but to become someone who embodies it, quietly, fully, freely. And in that, you'll find what you've been looking for all along.